What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Bex, BEX, and in this week's video, we're gonna be sitting down with Steve Schwartz of LSAT Unplugged. And Steve Schwartz is a great resource for all things LSAT related. And in this week's video, what we're gonna do is sit down and talk about the LSAT Flex. Since I don't really know much about it, and a lot of people right now who are taking the LSAT are considering taking the LSAT Flex this summer, I figured that I should sit down with somebody who knows more about the LSAT Flex than I do and can actually give some helpful advice. So if you are interested in learning more about the LSAT Flex and also some more general LSAT tips, you should definitely watch this video in its entirety. And then I will also be linking down all of Steve Schwartz's information for LSAT Unplugged in the description bar below so that you can access his resources and improve on your LSAT score, because that's what you're here for, right? So we'll just get right into it. I'm here with Steve Schwartz from LSAT Unplugged. We're going to be talking about the LSAT Flex because I personally don't know a lot about the LSAT Flex, but I believe that Steve has a bit more useful information on it, and just talking about the LSAT a little bit more and how we can do better on this thing.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Bex.
Yeah, nice to meet you finally.
Nice to meet you as well. So tell me how I could help. I know that we're talking about the flex, the recent LSAT changes. There's a lot going on. So
Yeah, there is a lot going on, and I want to just talk about the LSAT Flex for those who are watching my videos maybe, and in this current situation, they can't really relate to my experiences with the LSAT because I took it, I even took it on paper. I didn't even take the digital version, so I was kind of like way back, and I think that some people might want to know more about what the LSAT Flex even is to begin with.
yeah, sure. So the LSAT Flex is a new online LSAT that LSAC put together really fast due to COVID-19, and they couldn't administer the LSAT in person in large group settings. So they moved it online. Last year, they made it digital on a tablet. Before that, it was paper. And so they've made another radical change by putting it online. And so they made it online for the May, June, and July LSAT administrations. Those were not able to be conducted in person. August, October, beyond, those are all open questions. But basically, for the Flex, you're doing it online at home from your own computer. And if you don't have one, LSAC will actually ship you a tablet, so you could take it on a tablet at home,
I didn't know
interestingly.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to make it work for people because not everybody has a good device or a good internet connection. So they make arrangements. But bottom line is that most people are doing it at home, online, on a computer. And it's also notably shorter. It's only 3 sections, not 5.
I did hear about that. And are people finding that, I guess what people want to know is kind of like, is it easier than the regular LSAT?
Yeah, it's a good question. I get that one a lot. It's probably a more pleasant experience because it's shorter and the comfort of your own home. So assuming you have a quiet home environment with a good internet connection, it's probably a smoother experience. And so a lot of people prefer to do Flex if possible, but things are a little bit different on the Flex. Like I said, it's shorter, 3 sections, not 5. So rather than logical reasoning being half of the scored sections, it's only 1/3. So logical reasoning actually is diminished in its importance, and games and reading comp are relatively more important. So you may want to take an exam that plays slightly more to your strengths, depending on your preferences.
And actually, that's interesting because I think that logical reasoning for me personally was one of my biggest struggles in, at least in trying to improve my score. I found that that was like my weak spot. So is that going to change kind of how people should approach their studying going into taking the LSAT Flex?
Yeah, you would definitely want to adjust the ratio that you spend on of time that you spend on each section. So if logical reasoning is a problem area, you may want to hold off and wait for the LSAT to be in person, but that's also an open question. So if that's the case, you may want to say, you know what, Flex is better for me. So I'll boost logical reasoning a little bit, but I could also play to my strengths. I'd say if somebody is going in fresh, they probably want to spend roughly equal time on each section.
Mm-hmm.
But another consideration, you see, everything is it depends with law school.
Yeah, of course.
Depends. Logic games is easier to improve on significantly. So you may want to say, I'm going to do, if I'm equal in everything, I might want to focus on games and reading comp to get those higher because games, of course, is the easiest to improve on for most.
That is true. That's very interesting. And have you heard of it so far just going pretty smoothly for most people in terms of the first, I guess they had the trial run and then they've already had the June LSAT Flex yet or not?
Yeah, so there wasn't really a theoretical trial run. Like the first run was May, but it was very real for those people. So I was telling people, don't book it for 9 a.m. the first day it's administered, because if you wait, you can hear from other people about what their
Right.
experience was like. And there were some issues. There were tech issues, which is always the case on something new, people not knowing how to get their computers set up. The proctors also didn't really know everything about the rules and such. So there was some confusion there, a bit of miscommunication between LSAC and ProctorU, which is the company administering the LSAT Flex. So for that reason, you wait and see what happens. The rest of the May LSAT Flex on the second day was a bit smoother. And then the June LSAT Flex is actually happening right now as we speak. And that administration has gone notably better. So there was better communication. They worked out the tech. They worked out the understanding of the rules. And so I would expect that each subsequent administration will get better and better with time.
Well, sending out good energy, good vibes to those who are taking your exam right now. And hopefully this information doesn't come to you too late, or at least maybe it'll come to you when you can think about retaking the July LSAT Flex.
I mean, the good news is that the June LSAT Flex has gone much better. I'm not hearing any of the same issues really that we heard from May. Of course, it's not perfect. You're always going to hear of the issues, and online, everything within it gets like blown out of proportion sometimes. But overall, it's been pretty good.
Those who take to Reddit to start talking about everything.
Yeah.
Another question I think I would have if I was taking the LSAT Flex and thinking about it in regards to applications, are schools going to be taking this just as they would with the regular LSAT? Are they weighing things differently because it's a different exam in some sense, or is everything going to be just as normal?
Everything is just as normal. Admission officers will treat it no different. I get that question a lot. Even some of the admission officers have not been totally clear in their communications about it. If they're not taking flex results for this cycle, it's only because we're pretty late in the cycle already. So it's due to the timing, not due to the exam itself. So you could take the flex now and apply in 2 years if you want to, and law schools won't care it was flex. LSAC says treat this one the same as any other exam. And they're big on the psychometrics and all the analysis. And so they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't think it was roughly equivalent. And I think they'd prefer to do the in-person, but this is the best they can do in the circumstance. And you can't have a 4-hour online exam with no breaks because people have to go to the bathroom. So that's part of the reason they shortened it to the 3 sections, but law schools don't care. They're treating it the same.
Okay, that's great, because I guess I was wondering if they weren't going to be treating it the same, would it just be worth it for more people to just not take the LSAT Flex at all and just kind of wait, because we already late into this 2020 cycle that to me, I guess I would just think, okay, well, maybe I'll just take it in the fall and just use this summer to have even more time to study and take the regular LSAT. But I guess it kind of just depends on you personally, right? It's not.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of personal preference and nothing more. And if you're concerned about the ambiguity of not knowing which format you're going to get, the simplest solution is probably just to wait, because on a long enough timeline, the odds of COVID affecting things hopefully reduces. And so I would think that October, November, January are much more likely to be in person, but it's really honestly anybody's guess. Looking out now as we're speaking in mid-June, I think even the August LSAT at the end of the month will probably be a flex, just because things have not recovered nearly back to normal in most of the country. So I think we'll see that one be a flex. But ultimately, these are format changes in terms of how it's delivered, but the content is still the same. So all the questions are all of the same difficulty. Games, reading, comp, reasoning, they're all pretty much meant to be the same. And so I wouldn't worry too much about that overall.
Okay. Yeah. Also, do you think that this could make people want to just take the GRE instead? If it's like, if people are saying, I mean, I guess it'd be no different than when the GRE was first even being introduced and allowed, like people still had that opportunity way back. But I'm just wondering, like now, do you think we would see maybe like a rise of people taking the GRE instead of just taking the LSAT Flex?
I think actually because they came out with the Flex so fast, that was in part probably due to GRE competition. If there was no competition as a monopoly, they could have said, we don't care, we're just going to wait. And like for the MCAT, for example, they had to wait for months and months and months with no information. MCAT has a monopoly. They've handled this pretty poorly from what I've gathered overall, have not been the most student friendly. But LSAC has a new recent administration that's much more student friendly. And adaptive and flexible. And so they came out with this super fast just in a couple of months once COVID hit. And so I think that actually diminished any GRE competition. And the GRE, by the way, also moved online, also being administered by the same company, ProctorU. So ProctorU is the real winner in all of this because they're getting all the online exams. But I think you could do GRE on ProctorU, LSAT Flex on ProctorU. It's the same thing on that end. Yeah. But since most of law school admissions is still LSAT dominant and fewer than 5% of people get in with the GRE scores, I think the Flex is probably a strong competitor there.
You know that statistic about acceptance with GRE scores?
Yeah, a lot of schools are taking GRE scores, but most people aren't applying with them. And you also don't want schools to think you're just applying on a whim. So you have to be pretty outstanding to get in with that, I would imagine.
I see. Well, if you don't mind shifting over to what I was originally also wanting to know about in terms of, for those who just want to know in general, not just with the LSAT Flex, but LSAT in general, how to improve. Because I think that online, when you're looking for advice, a lot of it is kind of more focused on the, like, before you take your first official LSAT, and like, this is your study plan, this is how you should attack it. And I don't think that there is enough on what to do in between your exams if you decide to retake, and the kind of strategy that you should have. And I think that's where I struggled, because I did a self-study program prep course, and I didn't really know what my next game plan should be before I retook the next one.
Yeah, great question. So retaking is more common than ever before. Law schools don't average multiple scores. They only take the highest, with very, very rare exceptions. So studying for a retake, first off, I would say don't worry about having burned through a lot of material. Okay. The value in doing the newer exams is not simply to measure yourself. It's really to learn from your mistakes. And so there's always value in redoing and reviewing in more depth. Unless you get perfect 180s on everything, there's probably still something to learn from those exams. So I wouldn't go back to the oldest exams necessarily. I would stick with relatively newer ones. I would also look to see any weak areas and what you need to change about your approach. If one course of action didn't work for you, then maybe you want to try a different one. If there's a resource that you weren't sure about investing in, now is the time. And definitely don't skimp on prep tests. If you need more prep tests, get them. You can get another book of 10 exams for about $20. There's also the new official LSAT Prep Plus from LSAT that gives you most of the exams in the digital format for only $99 a year. So that's a new resource that not enough people have heard about or are using yet. But if you want to simulate test day, that's the thing to use.
That's awesome.
And I would say relatedly, look to see what you could do about simulating test day in more depth, in more detail. Maybe there are little tweaks and things you didn't do that you could have, like strictly timing yourself, no breaks off the clock, wearing the same outfit you're going to wear on test day, eating the same snack you want to wear on test day. There's all these little ways you can level up what you're doing. Whereas if the first time you only were giving it 80% effort, now is the time to give it 110% effort so that you could be done with this thing already.
Yeah, absolutely. I think trying to minimize how many times you retake it that was my goal, but I don't think I wish I had a little bit more guidance on how to do that. Can you speak to any of the things that you do to help people improve on the LSAT?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a ton of resources. I've been doing this since 2005. I've got guides, cheat sheets, checklists, explanations, day-by-day study plans that are especially popular to remove all the ambiguity about what to do. And then I also have courses, and the courses have become incredibly popular, especially recently because of COVID. So I've moved everything that was in person, moved it online. I've got on-demand videos. I've got live online classes and Q&As. And I've also got group coaching, which I haven't seen anybody else doing. So I really try to create, I try to create a community of students where it's not just going through problems. We're handling the bigger questions behind the questions to help you keep moving forward. And I'm not the only one giving the answers. I actually invite other students to teach each other, because you learn a lot by teaching and by hearing multiple perspectives. So it's really a supportive environment to keep you accountable, to keep you moving forward, and to keep you moving past any roadblocks that could come up along the way.
That's awesome. Where can people find your resource?
Yeah, sure. So I've got the LSAT blog, the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel and podcast, as well as a Facebook group and Instagram. And I'll send you links to all of those if you want to include them in the description.
Absolutely. I'll definitely be doing that. That is great. And I think that if people are interested, if you guys just took the June LSAT Flex and you said, that didn't go the way I wanted it to, but you've got more opportunities this summer, definitely check out his resources that I'll link down below in the description. And I just want to thank you for having this conversation with me and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about the LSAT Flex.
Of course, Bex. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Guys, as always, if you enjoyed this conversation with Steve from LSAT Unplugged, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up so I know that and I can continue to plan more videos in this style. Whatever you guys want to see, I will try and do that. Also, comment down below if you have any other questions about applying to law school or anything else related to the LSAT, anything that I haven't addressed yet in this series, because I do plan to do just a couple more videos on the law school application process. And finally, again, continue to subscribe to my channel, share this video if you can, because I want to continue helping more people in their journey towards law school. And I think it's very important to make sure that people are receiving information from all different types of sources, and really making sure that they know that the law school process is different for everybody, and just making sure that people hear my experience in case they haven't found an experience that they can relate to yet. I will see you guys next week as we continue the law school series. Bye.